Hi, everyone.
Hi, Miss.
Hi, Miss Lynn.
How's everyone doing?
Fine, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
ഞാൻ ഡ്രീം ഫാസ്റ്റ് തന്നെ.
Good morning, Miss Lynn.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine.
Is everyone cold?
Yes.
I'm freezing.
Yes.
Me too.
Okay, so today we're going to continue with I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. And we stopped on page 606 in your textbook. If you recall the last paragraph that we read, Dr. King says, I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. All right, so we're going to continue to read starting from here. Okay. Ahmed Magdi, would you read, please?
Yes, Miss.
Starting.
Where should I start from?
See right here on the screen, I have it highlighted. This paragraph.
Okay. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its racist, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and modification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers.
Okay, Offit, stop 1 second, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to explain the reason he brings up Alabama here is because the then governor of Alabama, his name was George Wallace. He absolutely despised Black people. And he swore that Black children would never, ever be allowed to enter schools, any schools with white children, okay? Every word that poured out of his mouth was racist. So this is why he focuses on Alabama in this paragraph. He's talking about Governor Wallace. Okay, go ahead, Ahmed, I'm sorry.
I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, I passed this part. I have a dream that one day, every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope this is the faith that I go back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will...
Right here.
Yeah. We will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true.
Thank you, Alfred.
You're welcome.
Okay, so he's saying here that after this day, he hopes that he can go back to the South, and with this space, everyone will be able to hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. In other words, he hopes after this speech that everyone will go home with a different mindset and a different way of thinking. He says, with this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, even go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together. So he's hoping that everyone will become one in solving this problem of racism. If you go to jail, you all go together. If you pray, you all pray together. You should be able to work together every day, okay? Ahem, will you read, please? Right here.
Miss?
Yes.
Okay, miss.
Wait, Adam.
I'm really
Yes,
sorry,
Hannah.
but I have a question.
Yes.
I didn't understand when he said, I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low.
Okay, because here he's talking about the problem of racism, Hannah, is so big, it's like a giant mountain. You understand? That's what he's comparing it to. And he says that he hopes after today that they can take that mountain and carve a stone of hope in it. He doesn't mean a mountain in the literal sense. You understand? He's just saying that the problem of racism in America is as big as some mountains. So they have to climb those mountains and start carving down those mountains and turn those mountains into hope. You understand?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. All right, go ahead, Adam.
So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom to ring, we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city. We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Okay. And what he was saying here is that King's ultimate vision is an America in which all people can come together for freedom, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what your nationality is. Everyone in America has the right to freedom. Okay. Any questions? All right, let's go to, 1 second. Let's go back here. Can you see the first page?
Yes, Muslim.
Okay. All right, let's look at some of the questions that it asks here. Reread lines 8 through 13. What evidence does King provide to support the claim that the Negro is still not free? Who can tell me? Raise your hand. Hannah?
They are still discriminated against. They are still isolated. They still live in poverty. They like ghettos, and also they can't find the prosperity because they can't find proper jobs, job opportunities, and the society is segregating them on their their own in their own segregating them like it's as if they were exiled in their own land.
Right. He says here, 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. The Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. The Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. In other words, while all the white men are earning good livings and many are becoming rich, the Negro is still living in poverty. And remember, I explained this to you before. They work extremely hard for almost no money, okay? Some work for no money at all. He says also that the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society, and he finds himself in exile in his own land. In other words, he is separated completely from the rest of America, only because his skin is black, okay? And he says, we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. And this is very important. I want you to remember this when he says, we have come here today to to the nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they signed a promissory note that gave every single American the right to freedom, okay? They would be guaranteed unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I can assure you, during this time, the Negro was anything but happy, okay, because of the way they were treated. The next paragraph, it is obvious, it's very plain today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. If Ahmed has a bank account, he has a checking account at the bank, and let's say he owes Adam some money. So he writes out Adam a check for $50. And Adam takes that check and he goes to the bank. And the person at the counter takes the check and comes back in a few minutes. And on that check, it is stamped insufficient funds. This means that Ahmed did not have the money in his account to cover that check for Adam. So basically, King is saying the same thing, that the Negro people have been given a bad check that has come back marked insufficient funds. And then he goes on to say, but we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. In other words, he's saying here, the Black people refuse to believe that they don't have a right to the same rights that the white people have, okay? They're not going to just sit back and take it anymore. They're willing to do something about it. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds, okay? I don't think I put that up here. But anyhow, you get the idea of it. Are there any questions about this? Do you understand the insufficient funds part? Okay, if you look at your books, I don't have it on my screen, guys, I'm sorry. But if you go back to page, hold on one second. If you go back to page 603, where he says, we refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We also have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. He said there is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. In other words, he is telling the people, you have to act now. There's no time to wait around. There's no time to even think about it. You can't take your sweet time. The time is to act now. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial injustice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. And I want you to notice throughout the speech how many times he mentions God. I told you before, he is also a minister of the church. So by bringing up God, his hope is that he will stir emotions into people, okay? He will make them start thinking, what is the right thing to do according to God? He says it would be fatal, deadly, for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and quality. Right now is a sweltering summer. Things are hot, very hot, because of racism. It's got part of America is on fire about racism, okay? Especially where the Blacks are concerned. He says this sweltering summer of Negroes' legitimate discontent will not pass, or it will not be over until there is an invigorating autumn or cooling off of freedom and equality. Until the black man is treated with the same rights as the white man, nothing will change. He says 1963 is not an end, but it's a beginning. And those of you that hope that the Negro needs to blow off steam and will now be content, you will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. Don't think that when we all go home today, that things will go on as they were before. If you think we just came here to vent our disappointment and our anger and our sadness of how the black man is treated, you are in for a big surprise. He says there will be neither rest nor tranquility, peace, in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. Any questions so far?
No, thank you, Muslim.
Okay, and the next part, remember when he said, but there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the worn threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In other words, he's talking to all the Negroes, okay, in America. He said that in the process of gaining our rightful place, you must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. In other words, he is telling the Negroes, you cannot get peace by hate, okay? We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. He was very much against violence. It didn't matter to him if there were 100,000 people marching with him in a protest. He expected no violence whatsoever. And he said again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Again, he's referring to physical violence. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Negro community, must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. In other words, he is telling the Negroes, all white people are not against us. So don't be fooled by that and strike out at all white people. He says, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, they have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. What he's saying here is there are many white people that believe the only way to live in America in peace is to recognize the Negro as your brothers and sisters, okay? And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always, always march ahead. We cannot ever turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights. People kept asking, especially to the Negroes, when will you be satisfied? When will you ever stop these protests? When will you ever stop giving these speech? Dr. King said, we can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We also can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger ghetto. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs that say for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of these people, you have to remember, have been in jails, they've been beaten, they've been treated like the scum of the earth. And this is what he means when he says, I know that some of you that are here today have come from great trials and tribulations. He says, some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. Back then, when police arrested a Black person, probably 99% of the time they beat them down with sticks, and sometimes they killed them. This is what he's talking about, police brutality. He says, you have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. Now, one of your questions, I didn't put this on any lesson, but I want you to think about it over the weekend or do some research. I want you to figure out, if you can, why did he name these states right here in this particular order? Why did he talk about Mississippi first, about Alabama, and then South Carolina until he goes all the way to Louisiana? So see if you can find that answer. He says, I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, because he knows this is not going to end in one day or a week or even 1 month. He said, I still have a dream. And it is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. The creed is what is in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We hold, and this is where he's quoting, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. All right, we'll stop there because we read the rest today. I always get very emotional when I read the speech because I think it's due to the fact that he was so far ahead of his time, okay? And still today we have racism, especially in my country, and especially my state is still one of the worst states in America for racism. We have what you call redneck people there, and many of them are educated and many of them are not, but it doesn't matter because I don't think education has anything to do with this. But they treat the Black people terrible, terrible. And they, in some parts, they still do terrible things to them, okay? I can still remember the very first day in my school where the very first Black children were allowed to come in. We had many parents, white parents, that stood by the gates and protested with signs, and they tried to stop the buses. They did many bad things to try to keep these children from coming to school. All they wanted was an education, okay? So does anyone have any questions?
Miss Lynn?
Yes, dear.
Miss Lynn, do we have a research due tomorrow?
I'm sorry, Debbie.
Do we have a research due tomorrow?
No, I just want you to look up this one question, if someone will, about why do you think he names these states in the order that he does? It's not really a homework assignment. I just hope, I know Miss Hannah Yasser will.
Okay, Miss Lynn.
Are you with me?
Yes, actually I'm doing it right now.
I'm surprised Hannah hasn't already started looking for it. But I just want you to know why he did this. There is a reason. That's not just the way the names happened to fall when he was speaking. There's a reason that he named them in that order. And I just want you to be aware of it. Just as something extra about the lesson to know about Dr. King.
Yes, thank you, Muslim.
Does everyone understand the speech?
Yes.
Is there anyone that does not? Or is there anyone that is confused about a certain part? No? Okay, good. I'm glad. When I make the new schedule for next week, each day you will have an assignment to do. I have everything in SMS already. I appreciate the ones that have already started turning their homework into SMS. It is much better, okay, than having to look through emails. All right, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yesterday we had an assignment to do chapter 14 comprehension.
Yes.
But it was not on this.
I know. My fault, Bonika. I get a little confused sometimes. But I have everything in there. Okay. I still have to work on the chapter 14, I'm sorry. But everything for Dr. King that you will need for next week is already in there. Have you noticed that I have started putting assignments in the assignment? Have you clicked on the assignment button?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the assignments that I put in there?
No, I didn't see them yet.
I think I've put them all for grade 10, to be honest with you. But today, for next week, I'll put them in for grade 9. But I'll also have them on the weekly plan until the end of the month when we technically start. Okay?
Miss, you made only one assignment.
Yeah, that was it.
You were...
That was it, Hannah. Let's see, for this week, For this week, you had to define the literary terms. That was Sunday. Then Monday, you had the vocab words and to finish reading chapter 14. But you didn't have to worry about that because in the class, we had already started on chapter 15. And then on Tuesday, I wanted you to watch that speech, but we also watched that in class on Wednesday. And then your homework was to answer the questions, chapter 14. I still have to put them. And then today, there is a scavenger hunt in SMS for I Have a Dream. That's the only thing that you have to do for the week. Any questions?
Yes,
Miss, when is the scavenger hunt due?
The scavenger hunt is due actually over the weekend. That was your homework assignment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, you know, turn it in at least by Saturday.
Okay.
Okay. Saturday afternoon or night, 7 o'clock. That's good. And it's almost everything on the scavenger hunt is right in your book. It won't take you long at all. We've discussed almost everything that's on the scavenger hunt. Many of you might not even need the book, to be honest. Okay. Any more questions about the speech? Okay, then that's going to end our session on I Have a Dream. We're finished with the speech. Now all you have to do is your worksheets. Get those finished, okay? And then study the literary terms and your vocab. I mean, it's gonna be a while before you have a quiz, but you'll be having other lessons also. So, you know, just kind of stay on top of I Have a Dream also. You'll have I Have a Dream, and for term 3 for quizzes, you will have a quiz on I Have a Dream. You'll have a quiz on the first 12 chapters of the novel. You'll have 2 grammar quizzes, and then you will have a quiz on another story that we did. So it's total in term 3, you'll have 5 quizzes.
Miss, you said when that I Have a Dream quiz?
I'm sorry?
You said when I Have a Dream will be tested on?
No, I haven't put the date yet.
Okay.
But you have a long time, Yusuf.
Okay.
You'll have a
Miss,
grammar.
we will have a quiz on the novel?
Yes, from chapters 1 through 12. Yusuf, you will have a grammar quiz before you even have the I Have a Dream quiz. You'll have a grammar quiz first in term 3. It will be on chapters 7 and 9. Okay?
Okay.
All right, any more questions?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you in the next session.